Hello there. So it's been a little bit of time, but I just wanted to come back and do a little bit of an unboxing. I want to try and do a few more of these actually, just looking at some of the new fantastic books that are out there and some really nice role-playing games and things like that. So the first one of these I'm going to be looking at is The One Ring, and this is the new starter set from Free League, based on the this is the second edition basically of The One Ring, sort of developing on a long-running and very well-beloved franchise, I guess, actually. This is the system that was kind of, or at least the design and stuff that was kind of ported over to kind of things like the Adventures in Middle-earth system. But this is a very sort of its own proprietary system. It's not borrowing from 5th edition or anything like that. And it does some really interesting things, actually, that hopefully we'll dive into when we look through this. So this is the new cover and the set. I really like the artwork on the front of this. I really like the sort of faded look to the characters, because you can kind of imagine them being your characters, whilst also, you know, definitely being sort of Sam, Frodo, and Merry, Pippin, etc., and the bunch. So very nice stuff indeed. So I'm going to take the lid off and we're going to go and dive inside. Now, I have already sort of looked through all this stuff already, because why would I not? But there's some really nice stuff, bits and pieces in here. So just go through some of the sort of accessories to begin with. So you have these really nice sort of crib cards that cover all the different weapons. So they have on the front of them a nice illustration in black and white, and on the back they've got all the details of the damage they do, the injury level that you need to hit in order to sort of cause piercing damage and all that kind of thing, and their load and all that stuff. They're really nice, very well put together, and a handy resource for the tabletop, especially if you're starting out for the first time and you need more reference material when you're playing the game. You've got weapons, you've got armor, and all that stuff as well. Very nice indeed. So we've got those. We also have these new dice as well. So these are applicable to the game system, so we'll go through that as we sort of delve into the rest of this. So the dice themselves, you have the D6, which are based on the stats that you have. So you can see that there's 1, 2, and 3 that all have that sort of inner marking, and then you have 4, 5, and 6. In order to get successes and stuff, you add the number of dice based on your ability or your skill, and then you add one of these fate dice to it. And if you beat your own target number attached to your stats, we'll look at that in a second when we look at some character sheets, then you'll pass the test. These dice, unfortunately, I believe, are misprinted because they have an 11 on the symbol there. So they go from 1 to 12, which is a little awkward. Well, at least they go from like a 2 to 12, which is a little bit of a shame. But I believe that they are going to be sort of resolving that when it comes to the people who back the Kickstarter and additional sort of upgrades and that kind of thing. Basically, just remember that that's a 1 when you're playing the game. You could even colour one in if you wanted to, or fill it in with resin. There's plenty of things you could do with that. But some very nice dice, and sort of in-world looking as well. I really like the script and the design of those. Very cool stuff. You've also got these cards. So these are used for combat and travel. They're very good for people who want to sort of set up and play Mind's Eye stuff on the tabletop. You use these in order to determine where you are in the battlefield and sort of how you're set up and that kind of thing. It's very cool. It's very abstract. It's a very nice way of playing. And that's kind of a nice sort of additional sort of accessory to help people, especially when they're starting out. Very handy stuff. Very handy stuff indeed. Next, you have, oh my god, this is lovely. So this is the big map. Oh, I had to come out of shot for this because it's huge. So on the one side, you have Eriador, as you can see there. So all of Eriador. So they've kind of switched things up in this one, and they've gone for Eriador rather than Ravanian on the other side of the mountains. So you've got the Shire and all that kind of thing, which is really awesome. And then on the other side, talking of the Shire, you actually have the Shire itself. So you've got a really nice detailed map of the Shire. Absolutely fantastic map design. Really showing off the quality of the product, even though there are a few blips here and there. And there you can see Hobbiton itself and how that all comes together. Really nice little sort of look at everywhere that you're going to be role-playing in, because this adventure that you get in the starter set, or at least the adventures in the starter set, are all based around the Shire. Then you have a selection of characters. So I have to be very careful with this. So yeah, you've got a whole bunch of different characters. I'm not going to go through these in particular because a couple of these should really be kept secret from the players. But if you're the lore master of your group, then you're probably checking this out. Just sort of break down these. So that's your sort of score. Underneath that is the target number, which is what you need to hit. So all the players do all the rolling really in this, which is really cool. Or at least sort of mostly anyway. You've then got your skills there. You've got how many dice you get for those. And then you've got whether or not it's sort of like improved or not, which is pretty cool. You've got your combat proficiencies, again, same sort of thing. So yeah, you've got all those target numbers at the top, which is pretty cool. So you're not rolling against the target numbers of creatures. You kind of have your inbuilt one, and then they sort of add to that, which is quite nice. Very sort of cut back and sort of minimalistic in style. The system's not that hard to get your head around, which is pretty cool. You've also got this really nice sort of little bit of background on the different characters, and then lovely artwork again. Again, more of that sort of pencil line work as well, which is nice. But yeah, there are a whole bunch of characters in this, and then a couple that you're not meant to know about. So if I accidentally showed you one earlier, make sure to skip past that if you're a player. But yeah, some really nice stuff in there to sort of dive into. And they're all hobbits, I should say, which is quite cool. So they've really sort of got in this idea of kind of create that feel of the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings at the beginning, especially in Fellowship of the Rings, where like everything is fine and dandy until things aren't. And they've really sort of played on that, which is quite nice. So it's very nice stuff there. You will find some sort of oddities when it comes to like the target numbers and stuff here, which I think they've actually changed here so that they can make it a little bit easier on the players, because normally your target number is 20 minus whatever your skill is, and then you can do it in sort of increments to make it easier. But so, for example, that should have been like 18, I guess, but they've put it to 15. I guess it's maybe to just make it a little bit easier for the starting characters. But if anybody has any ideas as to sort of what that is, then let me know, because as I say, sometimes the rules, while simple, are a little bit hard to get your head around. Very cool stuff there. You then have some amazing booklets. So you have the Adventures, which is absolutely packed with adventures for you to dive into and play, which is cool. So it's called The Conspiracy of the Red Book. So it's all again set in Hobbiton. And as you can see there, it's got a selection of pretty awesome stuff for you to dive into and play around with. As I say, maybe if you get to this point and you're looking at this, only look at this if you're the lore master of your group. But here you can see you've got a couple of different scenarios to play through. Some of them can be done in order. Some of them can be sort of slotted in wherever you feel like it. And you've got some really nice stuff in there that kind of, as I say, begins with things being sort of a little bit sort of twee, and then things start to hot up as things go through, which is pretty cool. So it's a very nice little book there. Then you have the rules booklet. This is, again, pretty well done. I wish that a lot of stuff had been kind of put next to each other. Like, it reads really well, apart from when it comes to having to flick back and forth a little bit between sort of, okay, this is how I do rolls, but then how do I do a roll if there's now combat involved? I have to flip to another bit and all that kind of thing. So a little bit of flipping back and forth, but it should be fairly intuitive, at least for the players. If you are the lore master and you can kind of take a little bit of time to kind of crunch this, or grok it, I guess they say. But yeah, it's a very simple system. One that I think rewards a narrative play, which is really cool. Again, there's lots of the amazing artwork in here and stuff, which is very nice. But yeah, it's a simple system where you're just kind of rolling a pool of dice, those d6 plus the d12 in order to pass. Going back to this so you can just sort of see. What you also have is you have the Gandalf rune there. If you get that, your test succeeds regardless. And then you also have the Eye of Sauron, which counts as 0 in your tests and can screw you up. And then you have the ability to sort of like boost stuff. So the number of elven runes that you see on these dice, they sort of affect the... they give you the ability to do sort of additional stuff. So you succeed and... so they're really awesome. So the more of those you roll, the better. The marks for the 1, 2, and 3, where you see there, where they're kind of been... they're sort of hollow. When you're weary, so when you've been hit... and you've taken damage, those no longer count their value. So you can only get the 4, 5, and the 6 on your tests. So that's a really interesting way of kind of like showing exhaustion and damage at the same time, because the kind of stats in the game for sort of your health and things aren't sort of typical to what you'd imagine from a role-playing game. So they've kind of played around with that to make it a little bit more narrative, as I say, which is really nice. But yeah, it's a fairly simple system. They've taken a lot of the travel elements out of this one, which is quite in order to kind of, because obviously you're still in the Shire, to kind of make it a little bit easier on people. But there's some really nice travel mechanics and stuff in there. And hopefully, when I look at the core book for the One Ring, which I hopefully will do in the future, I'll go through a little about that. You also have this, which is thick as thick can be, and this is a huge book that details everything you could ever want to know about the Shire. It deals into each of the different regions. It talks about the different characters and the people that live there. It talks about the history of the Shire. You've got this really that fun moment where golf was invented. Pretty awesome. The Battle of Greenfields, I think it was. It's very cool stuff there. And again, more amazing artwork. And this is where I think this starter set shines, because it has the 5 adventures, or 5 or so adventures, that allow you to sort of play out a really fantastic tale that kind of gets more and more deadly as things go on. But then you have all of this, which then allows you to tell more stories. So, for example, you wanted to go to Tuckborough. Okay, well, cool. There's some awesome tables about what would happen if you walked through Tuckborough. You wanted to go to Mickle Delving. Cool, fantastic. There's a Gandalf's Gossip table there, which is all about the Grey Pilgrim, and maybe you could spur another adventure. You've also got things like, let's see if I can find the particular image of her. There's like a really awesome one of like a ghost or something. So maybe you want to work out what the deal is behind the ghost that sort of invaded the lands of the Shire, and you want to work out how to banish it and all that kind of thing. So here we go. So you've got this really awesome stuff here. So there's some really fantastic stuff in, and there you go. Look, an entire encounter table for wandering around the Shire. So even if you're playing the One Ring and you're going through that starter adventure, you can bulk things out as a lore master by just using this in order to sort of take you to the next step. It's an absolutely fantastic looking little book that is going to be really fun to read. Look, there you go. You've even got wonderful Tom Bombadillo, which is really cool, in there as well. And Goldberry in the background. But yeah, it's a really fun little book that sort of is packed with interesting things for you to dive into and have fun with, beyond just the starting adventures in the set. As I say, there are some issues with the kind of layout of things in the rulebook, but the adventures themselves, I think as a starting point, are really good. You've obviously got that big Shire book, which is just absolutely jam-packed and perfect for people that want to dive in and explore a particular region in more detail. And then the characters themselves are a really nice mix of different things. I think you may have already seen things in some of the descriptions. If you haven't, well, let's put it this way: if you're planning to play this game, maybe sort of drop a comment below and say thank you, and then we'll sort of go from there. But you've also got some really nice stuff in the back of here, some little secrets for lore masters. So this is just for you. This is only for lore masters. Don't look at this. But you've got some really nice stuff at the back. So you have, for example, let's see if we can find her here. No, keep going. Here we go. So there you go. You've got a character sheet for Balin, son of Fundin, which is pretty awesome. You can get introduced into the game later on. Really nice little additional thing for people to play around with, which is really good. Nice little secret. And there's even a character sheet for Bilbo Baggins himself as well, which is really cool. So yeah, some really nice stuff in there for lore masters to have fun with and tell interesting tales. So a really nice set of well-presented character sheets, adventures and all that kind of thing. The map is just fantastic. I absolutely love the map. I think I might frame that at some point. One of the nice things about the selection as a whole is that everything sort of, and you can see it on the cards in particular, everything feels almost like a little bit of a in-world artifact. So you get the feel like you're almost submerged within the world of Middle-earth on the tabletop, which is quite nice. And you have some nice sort of stuff on the background to kind of like guide people in. I think this will be a really nice entry point for anybody who wants to play Lord of the Rings. You can tell that a lot of thought and effort went into the product, and everyone really enjoyed making it and playing around with it. They clearly love Middle-earth, and it kind of comes through in the mechanics and the way that they've sort of tweaked things and updated stuff. it's definitely worth having a look at. I think a lot of the issues with the printing will probably have been sorted with the retail version of the game, because I think this is one of the Kickstarter copies. I think that got sent for review. But yeah, there are some issues with the sort of the overall product, but otherwise, I think this is a pretty awesome set and a very good introduction to diving into the One Ring. Just make sure that if you're going to be picking this up, make sure that you sort of check it and make sure everything's right. You can contact Free League to get sort of replacements and that kind of thing, which is very nice of them. But yeah, this is a really cool set that I think will be a lot of fun for people who have maybe not tried the One Ring before. They've made it a lot simpler to dive into, and I think the setting of the Shire, as I mentioned, is a very good one to sort of get you started with. As starter sets go, I think this is one of the things that really makes this work, is that it has all the additional stuff in there for taking it beyond those initial encounters. It's not like the old 5th edition Red Box, for example, which kind of had stuff for you to get going with, but once you'd done that adventure, that was kind of it. I think this has really showed what starter sets can do and sort of carried it forward. I think when it comes to those starter sets in the market, I think Free League and Cubicle 7 do some of the best ones out there, because they know that they need to add more value to things, and this is actually pretty cheap, all things considered. I think you can get this for around £30, and for all the stuff you get in this, I mean, you get the themed dice, you get all the cards. Each of these will probably be about £5-10 each, whatever. That will probably be an extra £5 on top of that, and then you get all the adventure cards and everything like that. I think this is a very good bargain. As I say, really good for Lord of the Rings fans and those that are starting to sort of dive into the world of role-playing in Middle-earth. Yeah, I'll be back in another video soon. Hopefully this has been informative and interesting for you to look through. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them into the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe and share this if you want to online as well. It'd be really nice to see you sharing it. And hopefully I'll be back for another sort of unbooking, I guess, in the future, where we go through some more of the amazing role-playing games out there at the moment. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.